Hi, I'm Alana. Welcome to another video. In today's video, we're doing a get ready with me for church. So today I'm going to be talking about a paper by Freud called On Narcissism. So this is the paper in which Freud formulates his ideas about narcissism. Although he was not the first person to use the term narcissism, he thinks that maybe Havelock Ellis was the first person to use that term. So on narcissism, Freud basically says that firstly, narcissism starts as normal self-love. So Freud argues that babies and children begin life feeling like they are the center of the world. This is what he calls primary narcissism. It is not bad, it is just part of how the ego develops. And then love is about where your emotional energy goes. So Freud uses the word libido to mean emotional, or sexual, psychic energy. So sometimes that energy goes outward toward other people. That is called object love. Sometimes it comes back inward toward the self. That is ego libido or narcissistic libido. He says that being in love can make the ego feel smaller. So when someone is deeply in love, Freud thinks they pour a lot of libido into the beloved person. In simple terms, you become obsessed with them, you idolize them, and your own ego can feel depleted. Illness makes us narcissistic again. So Freud gives a surprisingly relatable example. When you are physically sick or in pain, you stop caring as much about the outside world. Your attention comes back to your own body. So narcissism is not only about arrogance, it can also mean being pulled back into yourself. So we use love objects in two main ways. Freud says that people may love someone because they care for, feed, or protect them, like the early caregiver model. He calls this the attachment/anaclitic type. But people can also love narcissistically. They may love someone who resembles themselves, who represents who they used to be, who they want to be, or who feels like part of themselves. He goes on to say that parents project their own narcissism onto children. One of the most famous parts is Freud's idea of His Majesty the baby. Parents treat the child as perfect, special, and exempt from ordinary suffering because the child becomes a place where the parents revive their own lost childhood narcissism. Because I guess when you make a baby, it's like you. It's parts of you and your favorite person. And then he goes on to say the ego ideal replaces childhood perfection. As we grow up, we cannot keep believing we are perfect, so we create an inner ideal version of ourselves, the person we think we should be. Freud calls this the ego ideal. This becomes linked to conscience, self-criticism, shame, and later what Freud develops into the idea of the superego. So Freud's point is that narcissism is not just loving yourself too much. It is part of how we form a self, how we love others, how we get sick, how we idealize people, and how we punish ourselves for not living up to the ideal. So, Freud's paper on narcissism is basically saying that narcissism is not just being vain or obsessed with your appearance. For Freud, narcissism is a normal part of becoming a person. So at the beginning of life, the child's love and attention are centered on itself, and that's called primary narcissism, and then later some of that emotional energy gets directed outwards towards other people, like parents, lovers, friends, and ideals. That energy can also come back if you get sick or something that forces you to be focused on yourself. The opposite can happen. We put so much energy into the other person that we idealize them, and then our own ego feels smaller. So, there we go. Thank you for getting ready with me for church. You're beautiful, you're perfect, I love you, God bless you, goodbye.